Tony's Pizza Palace smells like stale yeast, tomato sauce, and regret. It's the kind of place that hasn't changed its decor since 1998 checkered tablecloths, a Miss Pac-Man machine in the corner with a sticky joystick, and a neon open sign that buzzes loud enough to give you a migraine. I'm Leo. I'm 22, and my Honda Civic has 200,000 miles on it. I deliver pizzas because the warehouse isn't hiring, and my associate's degree in graphic design is currently serving as a coaster for my energy drinks. It was a Tuesday. Tuesday nights are dead. The suicide shift, Tony calls it. You sit around folding boxes, listening to the grease trap gurgle, waiting for the phone to ring. At 10:55 p.m., 5 minutes before closing, it rang. Tony picked it up. He's a big guy, hairy arms, always sweating garlic. Tony's Pizza, pickup or delivery? He paused. His face went slack. The sweat on his forehead seemed to cool instantly. He covered the receiver. Leo, you want to take this? Do I have a choice? It's big. 10 XL pepperonis, 5 cheese breads, 10 liters of Pepsi. That's a party, I said, grabbing my keys. Where to? Tony looked at the notepad where he'd scribbled the address. His hand was shaking. 1000 Memory Lane. I frowned. I've lived in this town my whole life. I know every pothole, every shortcut, every weird back road where the teenagers go to drink. There is no memory lane, I said. Maybe they mean Melody Lane or Memorial Drive. They said memory lane, Tony whispered. And they said they'd tip $200. 200. I snatched the slip. That was rent. That was a new alternator. That was freedom. I punched the address into my phone. Google Maps spun for a second, then gave me the dreaded gray screen. Address not found. GPS doesn't see it, I said. Tony looked like he was going to be sick. Leo, don't go. Just let me hang up. For a $200 tip? No way. Ask them for directions. Tony put the phone back to his ear. He listened for a moment. He didn't speak. He just nodded slowly, then hung up. Well? I asked. Take Route 9 out past the old mill, Tony said, his voice hollow. When the pavement turns to gravel, keep going for 3 miles. You'll see a turnoff on the left. It's not marked. Just turn. That's the cornfields, I said. There's nothing out there but meth labs and deer. Just turn, Tony said. He walked into the back office and locked the door. I loaded the car. The smell of pepperoni was overwhelming. The weight of the pizzas made the back of my Honda sag. I drove out of town. The street lights thinned out, replaced by the crushing darkness of the rural Midwest. Route 9 is a lonely road. It cuts through miles of cornfields that stretch to the horizon. In the day, it's boring. At night, it's suffocating. The corn stalks were tall this time of year, 7 feet high, walling in the road. I hit the gravel. The car rattled. Dust billowed in my rearview mirror, choking out the red glow of my taillights. 3 miles. I watched the odometer. 2, 8, 2, 9, 3, 0. There it was. A turnoff. But it wasn't a dirt track. It was paved. Fresh, jet-black asphalt, smooth as glass. It cut through the cornfield like a knife wound. There were no street signs, no reflectors. Just this pristine road leading into the dark. I slowed down. My headlights caught the edge of the corn. The stalks were wrong. They weren't green or gold. They were gray, like ash. And they weren't moving in the wind. They were perfectly still. I checked my phone. No signal. The map app was spinning in lazy circles. Okay, I muttered. Creepy corn road. Rich people building a subdivision in the middle of nowhere. Classic. I turned left. The moment my tires hit the black asphalt, the sound of the gravel ceased. The car went silent. The vibration in the steering wheel vanished. It felt like I was gliding. I turned on the radio. Static. I drove for maybe a mile. The corn wall on either side was oppressive. Then the corn ended. and I saw the neighborhood. I slammed on the brakes. It shouldn't be here. Spread out before me, lit by an impossible number of street lamps, was a sprawling suburban paradise. It looked like Pleasantville. It looked like the 1950s threw up on a cornfield. Perfectly identical houses, painted in pastel pinks, blues, and yellows. White picket fences. Green lawns that looked like astroturf. And it was silent. Not nighttime quiet. Dead quiet. No crickets. No cars. No distant highway noise. Just the hum of the streetlights. Buzz! I coasted forward. I passed a sign. Memory Lane. The fonts on the sign was weird. Comic Sans. Who uses Comic Sans on a street sign? I looked at the house numbers. The first house was 100. The second was 5,000. The third was 12. Okay, I whispered. That's not helpful. I kept driving. I was looking for 1,000. I saw a bike lying in a driveway. A shiny red Schwinn. It looked brand new, but there was no kid. I passed a park. The swings were moving. Back and forth. Back and forth. There was no wind. I shivered. Just drop the pizza, get the cash, get out. I found it. 1,000. It was a blue house at the end of a cul-de-sac. Bright red door. A mailbox shaped like a barn. I pulled into the driveway. My headlights washed over the garage door. It was open. The garage was empty. No tools. No oil stains. Just clean concrete. I grabbed the first stack of pizzas. I had to make 2 trips. I walked up the path. The air smelled strange. Ozone. And burnt toast? Why burnt toast? I stepped onto the porch. I rang the doorbell. Ding dong. The sound echoed inside the house. It sounded tinny. Recorded. No answer. I knocked. Pizza. Delivery. Nothing. I tried the knob. Locked? No. It turned. But I didn't open it. I'm not stupid. I looked through the bay window next to the door. The curtains were open. I looked inside. The living room was empty. I don't mean unfurnished. I mean empty. No carpet. No wallpaper. No outlets. Just a drywall box. But in the center of the floor, sitting on the bare concrete slab, a rotary phone. An old black rotary phone. And as I looked at it, it started to ring. 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 I backed away from the window. Nope, I said. Nope, nope, nope. I turned around to go back to my car, and I froze. The street was full of people. They hadn't been there when I walked up the path. The street had been empty. Now, there was a person standing on every single lawn. Men in suits, women in poodle skirts, a mailman, a milkman. They were all facing me. They weren't moving. They were standing perfectly still, arms at their sides. I squinted. The skin, it was too smooth, shiny. The hair, it was plastic. They were mannequins. Dozens of them, standing guard on the lawns. And then the one closest to my car, a father figure in a gray flannel suit, moved. Its head snapped to the side. Click. It looked right at me. Its painted smile seemed to widen, and the street lights buzzed louder. Bzzzt. I dropped the pizza box. It hit the concrete porch with a dull thud. The cardboard burst open, and a pepperoni pie slid out, face down. 5-second rule, I whispered hysterically. The mannequin in the gray suit took a step. It didn't walk like a person. It didn't bend its knees. It lurched forward, its whole body stiff, pivoting from the hips. Clack, clack. Its plastic shoes hit the driveway pavement with the sound of hollow toys being banged together. "Hey," I shouted, trying to sound tough. "I'm just the pizza guy. I don't want any trouble." The mannequin stopped. It was maybe 20 feet away, standing by the rear bumper of my Civica. "Is it hot?" The voice didn't come from the mannequin. Its painted mouth didn't move. The voice came from everywhere. It boomed from the buzzing streetlights. It resonated from the siding of the house. It sounded like a bad AM radio broadcast, static-filled, tinny and skipping. Is it hot? I swallowed hard. Yeah, it's hot. Fresh out of the oven. Look, the total is $250. You guys can just Venmo me or whatever. The mannequin tilted its head. The plastic neck made a screeching sound. We don't have money, the streetlight voice said. We have time. Other mannequins started to move. Across the street, a mother figure in a yellow floral dress began to push a pram. The wheels of the pram were square. They scraped against the asphalt. Scrape, scrape. A male man figure near the mailbox raised its arm. It wasn't waving, it was pointing at me. They were closing in. A slow plastic circle tightening around the driveway. I bolted. I abandoned the other pizzas. I jumped off the porch, sprinting for the driver's side door. The father mannequin lunged. It moved with sudden, impossible speed. A blur of gray flannel. I slammed into the car door, fumbling for the handle. A plastic hand slammed against the window, inches from my face. Thwack. I scrambled inside, locking the door. The mannequin's face pressed against the glass. Up close, it was horrifying. The eyes were painted on, but the paint was chipping. Underneath the blue iris I could see darkness, a hole in the plastic, and the smile. It was drawn too wide. It went up to the cheekbones. Open the door, Leo, the streetlights buzzed. We're hungry. I jammed the key into the ignition. I turned it. Click, click, click. The engine wouldn't turn over. Come on, you piece of junk. I hit the steering wheel. The radio flared to life. Max volume. Welcome to the neighborhood, Leo. Stay a while. Stay forever. It was a jingle, like a 50s commercial. Upbeat, cheerful, terrifying. I looked at the dashboard clock. 12 all maim. I waited a beat. Still 12 all maim. The second hand on my watch wasn't moving. Time had stopped. Outside, the mannequins were swarming the car. They weren't punching the glass. They were merging with it. I watched in horror as the father's plastic hand began to sink into the window. The glass didn't break. It rippled like water. His fingers pushed through, dripping molten glass onto the passenger seat. He was reaching for the door lock. No! I grabbed the emergency brake lever and slammed it down. I pumped the gas pedal. I turned the key again. Vroom. The engine roared. I threw it into reverse. I didn't look back. I just floored it. The car shot backward. I heard a crunch as I hit something. The mailman, the pram. I spun the wheel, swinging the front end around. I shifted into drive and peeled out of the cul-de-sac. The mannequins stood in the driveway watching me go. They waved. All of them. A synchronized, jerky wave. Bye-bye, the streetlight sang. I drove fast, 60 miles per hour in a residential zone. I blew through stop signs. I needed to find the cornfield, the black road, the exit. I turned left, then right, then left and right, then left again. The houses blurred past. Pink, blue, yellow. Pink, blue, yellow. They were repeating. I passed the park with the swingings. I passed the sign that said Memory Lane. And then I saw it. The blue house with the red door. 1000. I had driven in a straight line for 5 minutes, and I was back at the start. The pizza box was still on the porch. The smashed mannequin parts were on the driveway. But the mannequins themselves were gone. Reset? Or hiding? I slammed on the brakes. It loops, I whispered. It's a loop. I was trapped in the cul-de-sac. I kept driving. I drove for what felt like hours. The gas gauge didn't move. The clock stayed at 12:12. I started noticing the glitches. A dog ran across the street. A golden retriever. But it didn't bark. It opened its mouth and a human voice said, woof. Flat. Monotone. Woof. Woof. I looked up at the moon. It was full. But then it flickered. like a fluorescent bulb about to die. For a split second, the moon went dark, and I saw a grid of black lines in the sky. Wireframe. I passed a house that wasn't finished, not under construction, unrendered. The bottom floor was a normal yellow suburban house. The top floor was just purple geometric shapes, polygons floating in the air. It's a simulation, I said aloud. My voice shook. I'm in a video game, or a dream, or hell. I stopped the car. I couldn't keep driving in circles. I needed to think. I pulled over near the park. I looked at the swings, still moving, but on the curb, sitting under a streetlight that was buzzing violently, was a figure. It wasn't a mannequin. It was a girl. She was wearing a red hoodie and jeans. She had a backpack next to her. She was crying. I rolled down my window just a crack. Hey? She looked up. Her face was streaked with mascara. She looked exhausted, real. Are you real? I asked. She nodded. She wiped her nose on her sleeve. Are you pizza? She asked. What? Are you the pizza delivery? Yeah. She let out a bitter laugh. I was DoorDash. Chipotle. 3 loops ago. I unlocked the door. Get in. She grabbed her bag and scrambled into the passenger seat. She locked the door immediately. I'm Sarah, she said. Leo, how long have you been here? 3 loops. But time doesn't work right. It feels like weeks. How do we get out? Sarah looked at me. Her eyes were haunted. We don't, she said. Not until the server resets. Not until the deletion. She pointed to the sky. I looked up. Hovering over the neighborhood, massive and white against the black sky, was a cursor. A giant pixelated mouse cursor. It was moving, slowly, drifting over the rooftops. It's selecting, Sarah whispered. It's choosing what to delete to make room for new data. New data? Us, she said. We're the new files, and the hard drive is full. I stared at the giant cursor in the sky. It cast a shadow over the neighborhood, blocking out the flickering moon. It moved with a mechanical precision, hovering over rooftops, pausing, then moving on. What happens when it clicks? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Sarah shuddered. You don't want to know. Just pray it doesn't click on us. She opened her backpack. Inside were half-eaten granola bars and a bottle of water. Don't eat the pizza, she said. I tried to eat the burrito I was delivering. It turned to ash in my mouth. The food here isn't real. It's just texture maps. So we starve? No. Hunger is turned off. You just feel empty, like you're hollow. I looked at the dashboard clock. Still 12 am. Aeon Gay, I said, we need a plan. If this is a simulation, there has to be an exit, a debug room, a glitch we can exploit. Sarah pointed down the street. The deletion is the glitch. When the cursor deletes a house, for a few seconds, there's a hole in the world. A void. If we can jump into the void before the firewall patches it, we escape, or we get deleted too. It's a gamble. The cursor stopped. It was hovering over a yellow ranch-style house about 3 blocks away. The arrow turned into a hand. The pointing finger extended. Click. The sound was deafening, like a thunderclap mixed with a keystroke. The yellow house began to scream. It wasn't a human scream. It was the sound of grinding metal and tearing digital fabric. Scree-yee. The house started to pixelate. The siding dissolved into blocks of static. The roof collapsed inward, turning into wireframe lines. It's happening, Sarah yelled. Drive! Drive toward it! I slammed on the gas. The Civic roared down the street. The ground began to shake. The asphalt rippled like liquid. As we got closer, I saw them. The mannequins. They were gathering around the glitching house. Hundreds of them. They stood in a circle watching the destruction. They weren't afraid. They were worshipping. They raised their plastic arms to the sky. Authorized, they chanted. Authorized! Authorized! They're the users, Sarah said, or the antivirus. They're watching the purge. I drove straight at them. Move or get run over, plastic freaks. The car plowed through the crowd. Mannequins flew like bowling pins. Their limbs snapped off, revealing hollow interiors. No blood, just air. We screeched to a halt in front of the dissolving house. The structure was half gone. Where the living room used to be, there was now a swirling vortex of white noise. A hole in reality. "That's it!" Sarah shouted. "The exit." We jumped out of the car. The ground was disintegrating beneath our feet. The grass was turning into binary code zeros and ones floating in the air. "Hurry." We sprinted toward the void. But the father mannequin, the one from the first house, stepped out of the static. He was huge now. He had grown. He was 10 feet tall. His limbs stretched like taffy. His suit was torn, revealing a glowing blue core in his chest. "Unauthorized exit," he boomed. His voice shook the ground. He reached out a massive plastic hand. He grabbed Sarah by the ankle. "No," she screamed. She fell hard. The mannequin dragged her backward. "Leo, help!" I stopped. I looked at the void. It was shrinking. The firewall was patching the hole. I looked at Sarah. The mannequin's hand was burning her. Where he touched her leg, her jeans were melting, and her skin was turning to plastic, shiny, smooth. He was assimilating her, turning her into one of them. "Leave me," she screamed. "Go." I looked around for a weapon. The house was gone. But floating in the air were chunks of debris, glitching bricks that flickered in and out of existence. I grabbed one. It felt heavy, cold. It buzzed in my hand. I ran back to the mannequin. "Hey, Dad!" I yelled. The giant plastic head turned toward me. "Let her go!" I jumped. I swung the glitch brick with everything I had. I smashed it into the mannequin's face. Crack zap. The impact didn't just break the plastic. It caused a runtime error. The mannequin froze. Blue sparks shot out of his eyes. His head vibrated violently. Error. 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 He released Sarah. He shattered. He exploded into a shower of low-poly triangles. I grabbed Sarah. She couldn't walk. Her left leg, from the knee down, was solid plastic. A mannequin leg. "I got you," I said. I picked her up. The void was closing. It was just a small window now, maybe 4 feet wide. "Jump!" I yelled. We dove. We hit the white noise. It felt like jumping into ice water. It felt like falling asleep. It felt like being turned off. Everything went white. I woke up to the sound of a crow cawing. I opened my eyes. Dust motes danced in a shaft of sunlight. I was in my car. I was sitting in the driver's seat, slumped over the wheel. I sat up, gasping. I looked out the window. Cornfields, but they were green, alive, swaying in a gentle morning breeze. The road beneath my tires was gravel. I looked at the clock. 6 a.m. The radio was playing a country song. Static-free. I looked at the passenger seat. It was empty. "Sarah," I whispered. My heart sank. Had I dreamed it? Was it just a hallucination brought on by stress and pizza fumes? Then I saw it, on the floorboard of the passenger side. A red DoorDash bag. I grabbed it. It felt real. Heavy. I opened it. Inside was a burrito wrapped in foil. It was cold, hard as a rock. And under the burrito, a stack of cash. 20s, 50s. I counted it. $200 exactly. And a note scrawled on a chipotle napkin in black marker. "Thanks for the lift. Hope the tip covers the gas. S." I stared at the note. Tears pricked my eyes. She made it. We made it. I looked in the back seat. The pizza boxes were there, but they looked ancient. The cardboard was disintegrated, covered in green mold. The pepperoni had rotted away to nothing. The smell was awful, like a crypt. I had been gone for hours, but the pizza had aged years. I started the car. The engine roared to life on the first try. I drove back to town. The gravel turned to pavement. I saw a tractor, a cow, real things. I pulled into the parking lot at Tony's Pizza Palace. Tony's car was there. The open sign was off. I banged on the glass door. Tony came to the front. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. His eyes were red, heavy bags under them. He wore the same sauce-stained apron. He unlocked the door. "Leo," he croaked. "I'm back, Tony." He stared at me. He touched my arm, as if checking to see if I was plastic. "You've been gone for 2 days," he whispered. "We called the cops. They found your car. Well, they didn't find your car. They said you vanished. 2 days. I checked my phone. Thursday morning. Time dilation." Did you deliver it?" Tony asked, his voice trembling. I nodded. "Yeah, I delivered it." Tony let out a long breath. He slumped against the door frame. Good. If you hadn't, they would have come here." "Who, Tony? Who are they?" Tony shook his head. "Doesn't matter. Just be glad you're not them." He walked back into the kitchen. "Go home, Leo. Get some sleep." I didn't go home. I quit. Right there. I left my uniform on the counter. I kept the cash. Sarah's cash. I drove to my apartment. I slept for 20 hours. When I woke up, I felt different. Lighter. But there are side effects. I can't eat pizza anymore. It tastes like ash. In my GPS Sosin case, sometimes when I'm driving, the GPS glitches. The little blue arrow spins, and it tries to reroute me. Recalculating, turn left onto memory lane. I ignore it. I keep driving, but sometimes when I pass a car on the highway, I look at the driver, and for a split second, their skin looks too smooth, their smile looks too wide, and they wave. A jerky, plastic wave. I wave back, just in case. I thought leaving the cul-de-sac meant I was safe. I thought the nightmare was contained within that loop of black asphalt and plastic people. I was wrong. You don't just walk out of a place like that without bringing a piece of it with you. 3 weeks after I quit Tony's, I got a job at a warehouse. Boxing crates, mindless work. No driving, no maps, just cardboard and tape. But I started noticing things, small things. My reflection in the bathroom mirror would lag. I'd blink, and the reflection would stare back at me for a split second before blinking too. When I walked down the aisles of the warehouse, the fluorescent lights would buzz. Not the normal hum of electricity. They buzzed in a pattern. Short, long, like Morse code, or a laugh. And then there was the pizza. I tried to order a pie one night. A simple cheese pizza from a chain place. When the delivery driver arrived, he wouldn't look at me. He kept his head down, focused on the receipt. "Here you go," he mumbled. I handed him a 20. His fingers brushed mine. His skin was cold, hard, like vinyl. I looked at his hand. His fingernails were painted on. I slammed the door. I threw the pizza in the trash. I stopped sleeping. When I closed my eyes, I saw the cursor in the sky. I saw the yellow house deleting itself. One night, I got a text. "Unknown number. Did you enjoy the tip?" I froze. "Sarah." I typed back. "Sarah, is that you? Are you okay? Unknown number, my leg itches. It feels like plastic, but I'm okay. I found a way out." "A way out of where?" "We escaped." "Unknown number. Did we? Or did we just move to a bigger server?" My phone died. Battery drained instantly. I sat in the dark, staring at the blank screen. A bigger server. I went to the window. I looked out at my street. Real cars, real trees. But the moon, I looked up. The moon was full. And for a fraction of a second, it flickered. It buffered. I packed a bag. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay in one place. Static targets get deleted. I drove west. I avoided highways. I stuck to back roads. But every time I stopped for gas, I saw them. In the corner of the gas station, standing by the air pump, a mannequin, wearing a mechanic's uniform, watching me. They were tracking me. I realized then that Tony knew more than he let on. If you hadn't delivered it, they would have come here. The pizza wasn't food. It was an offering, a tribute to keep the simulation stable, and by escaping, by breaking the loop. I had crashed the system, and now the system was trying to patch the error. I was the error. I ended up in a motel in Wyoming, the kind of place where the sheets smell like smoke and the TV only has 4 channels. I was exhausted. I hadn't slept in 3 days. I turned on the TV. The news was on. Breaking news from the Midwest, the anchor said. A massive sinkhole has swallowed a cornfield outside of. He named my town. The screen showed aerial footage. A giant square hole in the middle of the corn. Perfectly square, like a pixel had been removed from the earth. Authorities are baffled, the anchor continued. Witnesses report seeing strange lights and hearing a humming sound before the collapse. I turned off the TV. They deleted the neighborhood. They deleted the cul-de-sac, but they missed me. There was a knock on the motel door. Knock, knock, knock. 3 distinct rhythmic raps. I didn't move. I held my breath. Room service, a voice called. It sounded like me. My own voice. Room service, Leo. We have your order. I looked at the door. There was a gap underneath. I didn't see feet. I saw smooth, gray plastic bases. They found me. I grabbed my bag. I ran to the bathroom window. It was small, but I could fit. I squeezed through, dropping into the alley behind the motel. It was night. The alley was dark. But at the end of the alley, blocking the exit, the father mannequin. He was wearing his gray suit. He looked pristine. Unauthorized exit, he boomed. He started to walk toward me. Clack, clack. I looked around. Dumpster. Broken bottles. Nothing. Wait. My car. I'd parked it around the back. I sprinted for the Honda. The mannequin lunged. His plastic arms stretched out, fingers elongated into sharp points. He slashed my jacket. I felt the sting of plastic cutting skin. I dove into the car. I locked the doors. The mannequin slammed against the hood. He started punching the windshield. Crack, crack. The glass spiderwebbed. I turned the key. The engine sputtered. Come on, I screamed. The radio turned on. Welcome back to the neighborhood, Leo. The windshield shattered. The plastic hand grabbed my throat. It was cold. So cold. So cold. I choked. I couldn't breathe. I looked into the mannequin's painted eyes, and I saw the cursor. Reflected in the glossy paint of his eyes, I saw the giant white arrow descending from the sky. It was hovering over the motel. It was going to delete us both. I smiled. Delete, I rasped. I grabbed the mannequin's wrist. I held on tight. If I was going to be deleted, I was taking him with me. The cursor clicked. Click. The world turned white, the sound of grinding metal, the feeling of falling, and then nothing. Epilogue. I woke up in a cornfield, real corn, green, whispering in the wind. I was lying on the dirt. My car was gone. The motel was gone. I stood up. I checked my body. I had a scar on my neck, a thin white line where the plastic fingers had dug in, and my hand. I looked at my left hand. The pinky finger was rigid, shiny. It was plastic. I flexed it. It moved with a tiny click. I walked to the road. Route 9. A truck pulled over. Need a lift, son? The driver was an old man. He had wrinkles, stubble, imperfections. He was real. Yeah, I said. Take me as far as you can. I got in. I survived the patch. I survived the dilution. But I'm not whole. I am part code now. Part glitch. I can see things others can't. I can see the wireframes of buildings before they're built. I can hear the hum of the servers beneath the earth. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can see the next update downloading. And this time, there won't be an exit. So enjoy your pizza. Enjoy your pizza buy. Enjoy your perfectly manicured lawns. Just remember, if the streetlights start to buzz, don't answer the door.